in real life. Okay, so I hope everyone is able to hear me and see me. So welcome to TIL Conf, and this is the software engineering track. And we are excited to announce that we have Daniel Afonso with us, who is our first speaker for the day, and he will be talking about a nerdy guide to the technology and web trending concept. So yeah, over to you, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Let's
Yeah,
see.
sure.
You should be seeing it, hopefully. Okay, so before anything else, thank you so much for having me today. It's a huge, huge pleasure to be here speaking to all of you. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. So let's start this thing, shall we? Okay, so attending conferences can be a bit overwhelming. You see, there are words and terms that are always showing up, but we don't always understand what they mean. So, you see, the reason for that happening is because we don't have the right mental models formed for these things. Um, for instances, if I say the word sleeping, immediately in your mind you will associate all the steps that you associate with sleeping because you have the mental model for sleeping built in your mind in its own way. Now, if we say things like hydration, fine grained reactivity, resumability, these are things and words that sometimes we hear in tech conferences and we don't fully understand what's happening because we're missing the mental model. Now, I want to tell you something about myself, which is I'm a huge comic book nerd. I have more comic books than I can read, and you'll find me very often doing pop culture and nerdy jokes. So, I was thinking one day, what if I grabbed these mental models for things that I still don't fully understand? I grabbed my love for comic books and I built a nerdy guide to the web trending concepts. And that is where my talk will go about. But before anything else, let me just introduce myself real quick. I'm Daniel Afonso. I'm working as a developer advocate at OLX. I'm part of the DX team of Solid.js. I'm an NetIO instructor, and you can find me at pretty much any social media at the handle Daniel JC Afonso. In the lower right part of your screen, there should be a QR code. So if you want to see my links and know how to connect with me, this is where you can go. Something else about me, I did a couple of things. I released a book called State Management with React Query about a year ago. I believe it's exactly 1 year today. In December, I released this course on Hagett called An Introduction to the React Testing Library. And very recently, and I've been doing this at the end of every month, I've been releasing my newsletter this month in Solid, where I'll keep you up to date of everything that's been happening in the Solid.js world. So it's easier for you to know what's been happening and keeping track of it. So these links are also on my QR code, so please check them out. And if you have any feedback on any of them, I would love to chat with you about it. Okay, now going on to what brought us here, which is this talk. Before anything else, I just want to have a small disclaimer. This talk will include some fan-made stories of using characters that are owned either by Marvel Comics or DC Comics. So please don't sue me. This is mainly for education purposes. And this might make some of you even more confused because now you're thinking, okay, how the heck will this talk work? Well, if we were in person, we would give you the power of choice. Unfortunately, I'm not able to keep track of the comments that's happening right now because my screen is full. Um, but I'll make the choice for you based on some average choices from previous events that I've presented this talk. Now, what will happen for each talk is I will show you two characters, one character from Marvel and one character from DC. This would be the part that you would vote, but unfortunately you can't. And for each character, I will choose a story. I will tell you a story, I mean. And this story will be, oh, this part shall we skip because it doesn't matter. But this story will be a comic book story. Exactly. I'm telling you a story in a tech conference. You might be thinking, okay, how? There's a reason for me to tell you that story because that story will encompass all the things that you need to have the mental model for each topic in your mind. And after I finish the story, I will go on to tell you the technical explanation of it and how it works and what's happening in the heck of it. So Let's get ready for it. I'm gonna get my storytelling hat, something like that. I don't have any here, but I could. And today we're gonna hear about three topics. Hopefully, if we have time, but I hope so. We have around 25 minutes right now, so it should give us enough time. But we're gonna go from hydration to fine grain reactivity and presumability. I'll start with hydration because that's the first one, and then we'll go to the next one and yada 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 yada. So for hydration, there are two characters where we can hear two different stories from each one of them. Based on popular choice and the things that I've seen in the past, a lot of you would very likely pick Iron Man. So let's start with Iron Man here. So let me just get here, click. And now I'm gonna assume my storytelling position. Okay, get ready for a story. So, after building Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3, Tony Stark didn't want to repeat the same process by himself because building an armor should be faster. He was doing everything by hand, he was manually doing the parts, doing the programming, doing everything by himself. So, this was slow. And he thought, maybe I could reprogram Friday, which is this custom AI. If you read Marvel comics, you know that Friday is the assistant for Tony Stark. If you watch the movies, you know, or you know him as Jarvis. It's pretty much the same comparison. And Tony said, okay, maybe I could reprogram Friday to know all the steps for building a new armor, and therefore I can put Friday building on it. So he did. Now that was left for it was to ask Friday to, well, start cooking, build me a new armor. And what happened after was Friday connected to the manufactory and started to work. After a bit, success. A new armor was finally ready, and Tony could use it. Fireworks. So Tony decided to give a shot at the armor. He tried to get on it, but apparently something didn't work. The suit didn't even open. This left Tony confused. It left him to think. Sitting there with a non-interactive suit, Tony thought for a bit. Until an idea popped into his mind. What if Tony downloaded Friday into the suit? You see, Friday knows how to build a suit, right? So maybe Friday, if uploaded to the suit, would be able to power it up from the inside. And once again, he did. He started the download process, so in this case, uploading the suit to the armor, and after a bit, it was completed. The new armor now had Friday running on it. So once Friday started up, it started powering up each part of the armor from the inside as it did the system check on it. Finally, the armor was ready. Now that it's powered, Tony could finally get into the suit and go for a test run. So he powered these thrusters, and apparently not everything works fine at the first shot. Well, this is a side effect of programming you see sometimes, but if you know hydration at all, or if you have already an idea on how these things work, you should have picked up on the cues from this story. But if you didn't, don't worry, we'll go over them together. So, hydration is there to serve one problem. It's there because server-side rendered code needs interactivity. The way it works is, in the server, when you generate the HTML and you generate the HTML and you send the given HTML to the client. Now, once the client gets the HTML, the page is not immediately interactive because you still need to download the JavaScript. You need to run the JavaScript and then run what it's called a reconciliation process. And after this reconciliation process happens, that's when immediate your page is now hydrated. Basically, what happens here is during all these steps, we're grabbing all the event handlers and everything that needs to be made to execute, to have the page being interactive and attaching it to the DOM. So after the hydration finishes, the page is fully interactive. Now let's recap these small bits of information to the story and picture what the heck was happening. So when we started with this part where Tony was complaining that building an armor should be faster, he was basically saying, okay, client-side rendering is slow because Tony was doing client-side rendering when he was building the armor. He was doing everything by himself. So he knew something. He knew that the framework, in this case Friday, knew how to build a page. So because of the framework knows how to build a page, what happens is using the framework, the server, in this case, which was the manufacturer, builds this new static HTML. So this static armor that Tony got. And when Tony got the armor, in this case, it's still static HTML. That's why the page is not interactive, because server-side render code needs interactivity into it. So now we came into the part that will basically be the hydration section. So what if the framework turned this static HTML into interactive HTML? So what we did was basically upload the framework, or in this case, download the JavaScript for the needed for the page to work. So that's what we did. And the client needs to wait for the framework. And once the client gets the JavaScript and the reconciliation happens and everything, basically what it will do is it will go over all the HTML, identify every part that's interactive, and attach all the event handlers and the logic needed to run every matching node. And finally, after this happens, the page is fully interactive. And this was iteration in a nutshell. It was quick, right? So let's just review what happens here and review the problem and have everything here in a nutshell. So the problem, SSR, server-side rendered code, needs interactivity. So what happens in this perspective is once the client requests a new page, when we're doing server-side rendering, the server builds this new static HTML and sends it to the client. But what happens is, once the client gets this static HTML/CSS, it's still not interactive. So what we need to do is wait for the framework to download. And once it downloads, it runs the reconciliation process where it goes over the HTML and attaches all the event handlers and logic needed to run this matching DOM node. Finally, the page is fully interactive. And this was hydration with the help of our friend Tony Stark. So now let's go to another story. We still have 18 minutes. Okay, so let's go to fine-grained reactivity. Now, for fine-grained reactivity, there are two options here. There's the option of my friend Watu and the Watchers from Marvel, and there's the option of Batman when he's sat on the Mobius chair. Now, I know that my friend Attila is sitting here on the chat. I've been seeing him dropping some messages, and he has watched this talk a couple of times, but he never seen the story of the Watchers. So let's go with the Watchers story. Okay, and I think this is probably one of the first times I'm showing this story to everyone, so hopefully you will enjoy it. But let's learn from fine-grained reactivity with the help of the Watchers. Okay, storytelling add-on. Let's do this. The Watchers. Seers have everything, knowers of all that has passed, all that is to pass. The way that they do it is by collecting time points and time derivations in their Cyclopedia Universum. They contain all this information of everything that has happened. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what are time points and time derivations, you might ask? Well, as your name might incline you to think, time points are points in time where critical events in the multiverse history happens. Sometimes the watchers need to understand what might have happened in each scenario. So what they do is they apply some small changes in the time points, and they create this thing called time derivations. Now, time derivations are a bit complex, and they depend on the original time point. So it's kind of a gray area here. But as you can see, we have a time point where we have the Hulk fighting Thanos and leading to the victory of Hulk. And we have a time derivation where the Watchers wanted to know what happened if Thanos won the fight. Now, for those of you who are familiar, know that the Watchers have one established rule. And that rule is to always watch what happens inside of each time point, but never interfere with them. Now, one of the members of the Watchers is called Watu, or the Watcher. And the Watu got a particular interest in a set of time points belonging to the Earth of the 616 universe. And what happened was, every single time a change happened in these time points, Watu would feel it, he would be notified. But helpless to do anything, he suffered. He was suffering because, well, the Watchers can only watch, he cannot interfere. If he interferes, it changes stuff. For eons, he endured this thing, until one day. You see, one day, Watu found the last time point that was part of the Earth 616 timeline. If this is the last time point, it means that it's the end of everything. Curious, Watu checked what happened. And you see there's something happening in the back. For the comic book nerds here, you know that's the Silver Surfer. And if you see a Silver Surfer happening, you know that Galactus is not very far behind. And that's what had happened to that time point. Galactus had went on a rampage and obliterated Earth and a couple of other planets. Boom, everything was gone. Now, Watu knew this cannot be. He needs to do something, and so he did. That day, Watu guided the Fantastic Four to the ultimate Nova Fire. For the first time ever, a Watcher interfered. Now, what might have happened? You might be thinking. Well, when this time point changed, the Watchers all felt it. They all got notified. And also, the specific time derivations also changed a bit. Now, the rest is documented history, because if you want to know what happened in the rest of the story, this was actually going on to one of the comic book runs that happened in 1961 of the Fantastic Four on issue 50, so you can figure out what happened next. And this was an interpretation of fine grain reactivity. I hope you all, if you're familiar, you picked up on the mental model. If you didn't, well, let's get over it together. So before we step into what fine grain reactivity actually means, let's break this subject apart and just focus on reactivity. Reactivity is a programming pattern that lets you set a behavior that automatically reacts to data changes. That's basically reactivity in a nutshell. When you start talking about fine grain reactivity, basically you're picking up a reactivity pattern that's built on top of this network of primitives: signals, effects, and memos, or derived signals. But in this case, we're going with memos. Now, these primitives allow the framework to know exactly where the update needs to happen. And this lets the framework not need to run any code to determine updates. One of the things that made, well, fine grain reactivity super popular is Solid.js. Solid.js doesn't need reconciliation, doesn't need a VDOM, it doesn't need any of these things, because signals are the things that powers everything in the back. So components only render once, and because of signals, if something needs to change on the DOM, well, signals will tell Solid, hey, we need to update this, and we update it. I will show you some examples. If you're familiar with React.js, this syntax will be very, very similar because it's JSX in its essence. But let's see what we have here. So let's start with signals. The signals are event emitters that have getters and have setters, and they hold a value. Basically, it's a way to hold state, you might think, but it's even more powerful because just by this example, it might be a bit weird. So what we have here is we have a counter and a signal, and this holds a value that starts at 0, and then we, inside of our JSX, we are attaching it to the DOM. This might be, or might look a bit boring, but that's why effects come into the mix. Effects are functions that will subscribe to these signals. What this means is every time a signal changes, this effect is executed. That's basically, in its essence, what's happening here. What we have in this JSX and this code snippet is an example of two effects, an implicit and explicit effect. The way we can do an explicit effect is by calling the create effect function. And what's happening here is, well, this component will only render once, but every time count changes, this create effect with console log will run, because the signal will notify the effect and the effect knows how to run. Now, this is an explicit effect. I mentioned that there are implicit effects here because there's also some magic happening. If you look down into the code, there's going to be this paragraph, and inside we still have this count signal. Now, like I said, in Solid, the components only render once. So how do we know that we need to update the DOM? Because of this implicit effect. What's happening here is every time the count signal changes, there is going to be an effect in the background that it's going to update only this specific part of the UI. And this is basically the power of fine-grained reactivity. This is super, super cool. Now, the other thing in the other side is memos. Memos allow you to cache derived values. The way this thing works, and let's look at this code snippet, we have our signal, our count signal, but then we have a double num function. And this function is basically a count times 2. So we're just multiplying the value that we have in count. This is not I forgot the word. It's not non-performant. So what we're doing, but if we look into the JSX down there, we're going to find that this double num function is being called a bunch of times. And what happens is if this was not wrapped by memo, every time the function was called, we were recalculating everything. And this is not a big piece of code, but if it was, this function would be called every single time it was called. So by wrapping something with create memo, we're doing a calculation, we're caching it, and every time that function is called from that point on, we give it the same response. The only way that this will change is basically if the signal changes, and then we trigger recalculation. I hope this was not a lot, but hopefully by the help of the story now, everything will piece together. So in this part, we were showing two things. There are time points, which are signals. They contain a point in time, in this case a value. And there are time derivations. There are memos. There are derivations of these time points. Now, there was also something happening. You could see that every time a time point changed, the watchers were notified because the signal it was subscribing to updated. Finally, when the Watu decided to interfere, that point changed. And this means that there was an effect notifying the watchers, and there was a time derivation that was recalculated. So basically, this was fine-grained reactivity in a nutshell. Let's get it all together and see what happens. So, recapping. Fine-grained reactivity, it's a reactivity pattern that's built on top of this network of primitives, signals, effects, and memos. Signals are event emitters that have getters and setters and all the value, and effects are functions that subscribe to these signals. Every time this signal changes, this function is executed. On the other side, we have memos, which allow you to cache these derived values. And this was fine-grained reactivity in a nutshell. I hope you all enjoyed it. We still have 8 minutes, so I think we can squeeze resumability in. So let's do it. And, well, since we started with Tony Stark before, why not give him a shot again and let's do an all Marvel presentation. So let's see resumability with the help of our friend Tony Stark. Now, after last fight against Kang the Conqueror, Tony Stark took a big hit. He completely ran out of armors. Now, he was back home, and as he was heading to bed, he asked, Friday, remind me tomorrow to build new Mark suits, because, well, he had none, and he fell asleep. You see, saving the world is something that is hard, I guess, and Tony deserved this sleep so much. Now, suddenly, boom, an explosion happened. You see, the Mandarin could not let this opportunity slide. This was a vulnerable Tony Stark. One of his nemesis was vulnerable. He could finally attack and, well, do whatever bad guys want to do. Now, suddenly Tony woke up and he was startled and he just shouted, okay, I need a suit. Now, Tony knew something. He knew that he wouldn't survive his previous process because it's not good. He could get the manufacturing running and that Friday building an armor, but that would probably the time to download Friday into the armor and power it for this site probably would mean death for him. So, as some Hydrogoons were showing up, Tony forced himself to think. Okay, I need an armor ready to work, but well, let's do it. Friday, initiate resumable protocol. Build me a suit now. And that's what happened. Friday started building the suit in the manufacturing room. That is, you see, as Friday was doing it, for each part of the suit that will be interactive, Friday would encode this information there. Friday would also encode a pointer that would indicate itself where to find the instructions to operate this specific part of the armor once the time to use it arrives. While this was happening, well, Tony found himself surrounded by the Mandarin and its goons. And as it always happens, the Mandarin started his bad guy monologue. Stark, I don't think you'll make it out of here alive. In the meanwhile, he points his hand to Tony and he fires his disintegration beam from his 10 rings. As he does this, Tony jumps to his newly built suit. The suit opens and saves Tony, for it would be a sure death blast. How? The Mandarin asked. He knew that the process that Tony had would definitely mean he didn't have time. How? He was really mad. You see, in the resumable protocol, something changed. When Friday created the armor, it already uploaded a very small part of itself into the suit. This small version of Friday was able to intercept the command from Tony, and by using the encoded instructions in the suit, figured out on the fly how to execute each specific instruction. And this would allow the armor to skip the boot system check steps that we had before. And that's basically what happened. There is no boot phase. Now, Tony with the armor and back with the Mandarin. Tony said, "Okay, Friday, fire the rockets." Inside the armor, Tony heard Friday saying, "Powering the rockets, Tony." And once the rockets were ready, Tony fired them. And boom, rocket fired, collapsed the entire house. Everyone inside was trapped. And this ensured that Tony could escape the Mandarin and call for backup. What happened next? Well, welcome to the world of comic books. That means we have to wait for the next month or next 2 weeks to the next issue to show up. So, this was resumability with the help of my friend Tony Stark. Now, resumability is there to solve a problem, which is hydration. Once we get the page is not immediately interactive. And during hydration, as you might have noticed from before, we redo the work that we did on the server. So, as my friend Attila said, no hydration is better than hydration. So, what happens here is when we're on the server we're generating the HTML, we already serialize on the parts that of the HTML that needs to be interactive some extra information. And what this means is once the client gets the HTML, the page is immediately interactive. So when this click happens, there's a global listener called the quick loader. Yeah, resumability became very popular because of this thing called quick. And what the quick loader does is it listens to all the events, and once the event happens, it captures it, looks at the serialized information, and downloads only the JavaScript needed for executing that part. So let's review the story and see how this thing pieces in. So first thing, hydration is slow. Tony know that if he was doing the armor in the hydration way, you would probably get captured. So when a client requests a new page, what happens is, using the framework, the server will build this new HTML page and serializing all the information needed to resume its execution in the new environment. What happens after? When the client gets the page is immediately interactive. Now, the client also gets this thing called the quick loader. This quick loader sets a global listener that will listen to all the events. So when an event happens, the quick loader intercepts it, gets the JavaScript needed to executing it, and runs it. And this was resumability in a nutshell. We did that in under 7 minutes. I'm proud of myself. So let's recap what happened here. So resumability is there to solve the problem that is hydration. What happens is, once a client requests a new page, the server builds HTML, serializes the information needed to run it on a new environment, and once the client gets the page, because of this, the page is immediately interactive. Because of this, and because of also the quick loader. Because once the quick loader sets this global listener to all the events, once an event happens, quick loader intercepts it, gets the JavaScript needed for executing this, and runs it. And as we're running out of time, we also run out of topics. So this was the 3 topics that I had for you today. Now, you might be thinking, what is the next topic? Well, I would love to hear that from you. If you enjoyed the concept of this talk, please tell me, give me ideas. I had a ton of fun preparing this talk, and I would love to help you building the mental models for the topics that you're struggling with. So, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This was a huge pleasure. And stay tuned for the next adventures, because this was a nerdy guide to the web trending concepts. I'm Daniel Alphonse, and see you online. Bye.
Uh, s- it was one of a great talk that I've heard so far. It was very interesting. So yeah, thank you and thanks a
Thank you
lot,
so much for having me.
Daniel, for your amazing talk. So
Thank you so
yeah,
much. We appreciate it. And see you next time. Bye.
so see you. Okay, great. So it was one of interesting space and interesting talk that Daniel presented. So, without wasting much of our time, we have our next speaker here with us, Dennis Kendall. So, Dennis is going to speak on the topic how design thinking is building better communities. So, let's get to it.
Hi Manish, hi everyone.
Hey Dennis, can you hear me?
Uh, oh yes, I can. I'm trying to upload my slides to the screen. I don't
Oh
know why
yeah,
it's not coming up.
no worries. I will do that. So
Okay,
the stage is all yours, and you can present it.
sure. Okay, this is awesome. Please just give me 1 minute. Let me set something up. Okay, I'm here. Um, all right. Hi everyone again, and good I don't know what time it is there, but it's close to evening here. So hi, good day, and it's such a pleasure to join everyone on the TIL Global stage. I am super excited to do this with you guys, and I can't wait to share the amazing things that I have prepared for today's talk. So. In this session, I'm going to share how design thinking is building better communities. Um, I was somehow added into the software engineering track, but I just want to assure everyone that most of the things I'm going to share throughout this conversation is for everyone. Okay, so it's not just for software developers; it's also for everyone who's looking to build community around any product they are trying to build or any awareness they are trying to raise. Just things around that sort. So let's dive into it. Like my other conversations, I always like to start my talks with a story. And the essence of this is just to let you know, um, just to give you an idea of what it means, of all the things I'm going to share throughout my talk, and just to let you into the conversation and for you to have like an imagination, right, of everything I'm going to share. So back to talking about the stories. One story I would like to share is that of a community that I built, and it wasn't from scratch, but then I know I added so many efforts, and all of them are linked to design thinking. So sometime in 2020, 2021 or so, I became a WTM ambassador. So that's Women Tech Makers, Google Women Tech Makers. And then I noticed that there were less members or very uninterested members within the community. And so for me to revive that community and to get all of these women into the tech space again, of course, I had to use design thinking. And one very important thing I did was to continue asking questions. I kept asking, what would I do next? How would the members feel about the new community? What initiatives can we add? What things can we improve? How can we help these ladies, start becoming interested in tech again and just understand what it means to be a woman in tech in my region? And very positively, I got so many great results and so many positive answers to my questions. And this helped me grow the community from a little over 12 persons to over 150 now. And that is because I constantly ask questions. I constantly try to do things that are tailored to their activities and things that help them see how they can become better persons within the tech space. So let's go to the next one. And this is where I get to introduce myself. Hi again. My name is Dennis Kando. I am a program manager. I think it was just a mistake that I was enlisted as a software engineer, but I did used to write code some years back. I was a software developer, but now I'm a program manager. I'm also a design thinking strategist. I love to talk about design thinking. I like how it all blends to my activities. I like how I'm always asking questions. I like how I'm always researching on things and helping brands and businesses and communities alike to improve their processes using design thinking. I am also a community developer manager. I've talked about building the Women Technicals community. I'm also a community manager for Google developer groups, helping the members to use Google products to build solutions. So I think that counts a little bit into software development or engineering. So, back to the discussion for the day. Here are a few things that we are going to consider through the course of this conversation. First, we are going to walk through what design thinking means, how it can all blend design thinking with community, the entire design thinking process, what community questions design thinking answers, and how design thinking, of course, is building better communities. And then we would wrap up everything that we've talked about. If there are questions, I would take them, and yeah, we'll just basically flow from there. So let's talk about design thinking. I don't know if anybody here has actually heard what design thinking is or what design thinking means, or if they have any questions around design thinking. But for me, the best way that I would like to describe this is seeing the world through another person's eyes. That might sound absurd or something that's impossible. How can I see the world through another person's lens or through another person's eyes? But the truth is, it's really possible. If you key into the so many amazing effects of design thinking, and if you begin to use it in your day-to-day activities and in your day-to-day life, basically. So this is like a somewhat simple definition that I had to coin for the purpose of this talk. And that is design thinking is a methodical and collaborative process that focuses on understanding the needs of end users, prototyping solutions, and iterating based on feedback. So, three things, right? Understanding the needs of end users. And this all goes back to me talking about design thinking being seeing the world through another person's eyes, right? You get to understand who the users are and what their needs really are. And then prototyping solutions. So, in the process of understanding who your users are, the next thing would be to create solutions for their needs or for their challenges. And then next is iterating based on feedback. So as you are understanding your users, you are creating viable solutions for them. And the next thing you're doing is that you're working based on feedback. If your solution isn't right or if you need to do something better, this is what happens in that process. So next, let us talk about the 5 design thinking steps and how you can begin to use design thinking in your day-to-day activities. But for the purpose of this talk, in communities, how you can begin to use design thinking in communities. Okay, so the first is to empathize. I've talked about this earlier. So empathy here really means understanding who your users are and asking the right questions. Where are they based? Where are they located? What challenges do they have? What are their pain points? What excites them? What makes them happy? What is the first thing they think of when you talk about your developer products or your community products? That is empathy. So as you're asking the right questions and getting answers to them, you are empathizing with your community members. The next thing is for you to define. So as you are getting answers through the empathy stage, you are somewhat defining the problem. For most businesses that I consult for using design thinking, I always create an avenue for them to give me their problem statement. So one key way to making your problem statement is you want something to help you do something so that in the long run you get to achieve something. So something here can be the need, the solution, and then like future advancements. So let me use a very simple example. I want to create business models so that businesses can reach the right customers and then begin to make profits. So That's like a problem statement and a solution all in one. So that's it for the definition stage. It just helps you clearly narrow down everything that you need to do, and all the information that you've gathered from the empathy stage, right? And then the next is for you to ideate. So at this stage, you have already understood who the user is, what the user wants, and then the ideation stage basically just helps you um, find better solutions for them, right? You start looking for options, you start getting opinions from other people, different perspectives, and all of that. And this all helps you properly ideate on the solution that you've thought of. And then the next thing is for you to prototype. So, walking through the first three stages has given you an idea of what to build. And the prototyping stage is basically for you to create something really simple that your users can begin to get comfortable with. And then that gives you insights as to how to improve it better, or what features to add, or what features to remove. And then you get to the last stage, which is test. So now you have built something that the user can use, can make use of course. And then next is for you to actually test that with a real user to get to understand if it really fits them and if it solves their needs. So one thing I want to point out in all of these steps is that the design thinking process is a loop. It's not something linear. It's not something you just have to go through stage one, stage two to stage five. You also have to get feedback and then iterate on it on the go. So it's a loop until you get the best solution. Now, for the basis of this talk, I want to focus on three main areas where communities come to play. The first is physical. Of course, there are physical communities based on different things. There could be physical business communities, physical developer communities, physical software product communities, physical open source communities. And then there are remote communities, ones that exist in the web, right? Where you are constantly sharing resources and having people learn and give their opinions on things that they're learning. And then there are core developer communities that just focus on core developer products and the likes of them. So I just want you to build your mind around these three different communities and then see how design thinking can help you build a better community. Okay, so next we are going to consider what community questions does design thinking answer. If you listen to my community story, you see that I was talking a lot about questions. I try to ask questions to get what community members we are thinking of and what they would like to do next. So one thing I also want to point out is that design thinking is all about asking the right questions. But then for communities, these are some questions that design thinking can really answer. The first, what if members are rewarded for having ideas and not ownership of them? So what if you bring out a problem, for example, and then you ask community members to just give you their ideas on that certain problem, instead of saying, okay, you have this idea, run with it, build it, and just make it happen. Instead of giving ownership to one person, how can you create like a collaborative environment and have members rewarded for the ideas that they bring for a certain solution? The next, what if every member experienced success in solving a community problem? So let's say, for example, there is a general community problem. What if you start by making sure everybody achieves success by solving that certain problem, right? Instead of course, giving it to one person again. And then the next, what if success is measured based on contribution to the community rather than raw knowledge? So instead of ownership again, from every all these questions, you would notice that I've just been talking about ownership. Instead of having one person being the sole owner or the sole carrier of that idea, what if you just guarantee success by contribution? And then what if every learner could co-author their learning journey within a community? So all these are different questions that design thinking can answer within your community. Now let's see how. How then does design thinking affect communities? For this section, we are going to focus on two main things, and that is within the community and then for community projects. So if you have listened so far in the conversation, you will notice that I've talked about building. So of course that would concern community projects. And then within the community, the affairs, the collaborative environment, everything around that. Okay. So let's talk about within the community. I'm going to share powerful design thinking practical tips that you can begin to adopt that can really help the community inside. So the first is oh sorry, I think I skipped that. Yeah. So the first is understanding community needs, right? I've talked a lot about empathy. Um I don't know why why my slides are jumping. If you can please enlarge it the same way. Oh yeah, this is great. So by tapping into empathy, you can key into the wants and the needs of your users. You can key into the behaviors of your users, and that will really help you understand what your community needs and how you can build the right solution for them. The next step is for you to find new opportunities to improve. Of course, by asking the right questions, that would help you clearly understand what your community needs and what you can do better for them. So, when you apply design thinking, it helps you identify opportunities for improvement within the community. You can get to know how everyone communicates, basically, how they collaborate, how they build things, how they bring up their ideas. Empathy helps you understand or identify new opportunities to improve within the community. And then the next thing is for you to build together and collaborate. So, a great way to foster um, collaboration within the community is to engage them in the co-creation process. So I talked about rewarding every community member for ideas over ownership, right? Um, have making everyone have a certain sense of ownership. Like, okay, I brought this idea, so the community can run with it. Giving them that feeling that their ideas are valid and their opinions are valid can really help everyone build together within the community. And that also leads to some active participation. So, how then can you apply design thinking for community projects? The first thing to consider is to gather project knowledge. One second. Let me just get something real quick. Okay, so the first thing for you to do is to gather products or project knowledge. Of course, before you begin building a product or before you embark on a project, you should have like a project brief or what you're trying to do that can help you gather the project knowledge. And then get to define the perspective even up to the task if it's something that they can do. And then the next thing is to creatively ideate solutions for the projects. Um, Ask for opinions from your community members. Ask for their ideas. Ask for better ways to make that project really work, and then that would help you creatively ideate. And then the next thing is for you to prototype bold ideas. For this, I just want to point out that no idea is bad, no idea is a waste within the community, but of course there are ones that stand out above others. So while you select the ones that do stand out, also make others understand that there are future projects. So now that you found a better solution and you are prototyping ideas, test that project or test that idea within a real community and get feedback in real time. And then while you have added all of this in your communities in design thinking, that would help you experience the so many wonderful transformations that would come up. So if you do some form of research, you would see that for you, not just within a community, but also as part of a business venture, an enterprise, a developer company. If you are constantly getting opinions from stakeholders, from members, that would help you transform the idea of your project. So that begs the question: is it possible to build communities using design thinking? I hope that from everything that I've shared so far, you would clearly agree with me that the answer is yes. It is possible to build communities with design thinking. I have walked you through the different and for community projects, because I also think that these are like the main things that concern communities, right? How can you foster colla- collaboration within the community? Can help you build great communities by prioritizing the needs of the community and by involving community members in every single process. Organizers, or the community owners in this case, can thus develop to communities' needs and more successful in addressing their challenges of our world. So one key thing I want you to get from this is priority. Even as you're using design thinking to get opinions of others, learn to prioritize and, of course, involve the community members in all of your activities. In every process, in every project building process, that would give you great in-depth idea on how you can become more effective as a community owner or community organizer, and how you can community needs, and that would also help you solve challenges in the long run. So yeah, that's it from me, and if there are any questions, I'll be very happy to take them now. Hi Manish, are you there?
Hey, yep. Can you see me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Awesome. It was an interesting talk. So if any one of you have any further questions and inquiries, you can just drop them in the comment section, and she will answer your queries. We still have a few minutes left before we jump on to the new speakers. Okay, so looks like the talk was very great. So people don't have any further questions on it. They understand everything clearly. So yeah, thanks a lot, Dennis, for coming in and enlightening us on the talks and insights from your professional experience. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so everyone, we are back, and Dennis Kendall provided a great speech for us, and it was one of a great uh, talk. So yeah, just moving forward, we have Monica with us. So Monica will be talking about less is more, unleashing time saving for CI/CD practices. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive into her talk.
Hey Manish, how are you?
Hey Monica, I'm doing great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you and so surprised to see you here. It's great. Okay.
You'll find me everywhere.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Okay, so yeah, you can just add your slides to the stage, and then we can proceed with it.
Okay. Let me just share my screen.
Sure.
Let me know if the screen is visible to you and then we can,
Uh,
start.
yeah, so we have it here. So I will leave the stage to you. The stage is all yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manish. Hello, everyone. So, this is Monica Rajput, and I'm so excited to present my talk at TIL Conference 2024. So, yeah, without further ado, let's check who am I. So, I am Monica Rajput. I'm working as a senior data engineer at Ahead. So before Ahead, I worked with four startups, and these startups are based on USA, Singapore, and India. And I love mentoring students. And also, I'm organizer at CNCF Gurgaon. Okay, so let's go ahead. This is all about me. And one second, yeah. So this is my social handle. You can just scan and connect with me if you want. Okay, so today's topic we'll discuss or we'll talk about is what is CI/CD pipeline and CI/CD best practices for efficient deployment. So yeah, hope you all will enjoy this session. Okay, so today's agenda will look like this. I'll explain my story, or we can say my experience with CI/CD pipeline and Jenkins and GitHub Actions. And I personally work more in the Jenkins. So we'll discuss more about the Jenkins, not the GitHub Action in this session. This is, and then we will see what is CI/CD, and then we'll check, okay, what's the flow of CI/CD pipeline, and we will sneak peek into over what's the overview of the Jenkins, and then we will jump into what's the CI/CD pipeline that I built, and then we will discuss what problem I faced while building a pipeline, and we'll see, okay, what's the best practices you can apply while building a continuous deployment, and then we will have some Q&A if you have. Okay, let's go ahead with this agenda. So, okay, my story with CI/CD pipeline and Jenkins GitHub Action. So that means uh, there is a story behind this talk. So when I was, working with Ren Mirinda Partners, so it's my previous company. So we were a startup. We were like eight members there, and I was founding engineer there. So I was working as a data engineer, also the cloud engineer. So a lot of heads I wear that there. So there I got a task that you need to build a CI/CD pipeline for our ELT pipeline. And before uh, that, I had no experience with CI/CD, and I had no experience what's the flow of CI/CD and why we need to, use a CI/CD pipeline. What's the work here for the CI/CD pipeline? So sometimes I love when my CI/CD pipeline works, and sometimes I hate this CI/CD concept when it fails. So you can see sometimes my pipeline just works perfectly, and after a movement it just fails without any reason. So it was, so much frustrating in real life, like how we can, handle this situation. So that is kind of my love and hate relationship with the CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so that's my story with CI/CD pipeline. I struggle a lot while building a pipeline. Okay, let's go ahead. One sec. Okay, now let's see. Um, I know maybe a lot of you may know what is CI/CD pipeline, but for this session, let's again see what is the CI/CD pipeline. So, if I say in simple words, what is CI/CD pipeline? So, basically, it's a series of steps that must be performed in order to deliver a new version of software, or we can say, uh, uh, a script we are building to automate our task from uh, pushing your code from to GitHub to deploying into the cloud. So that is the CI/CD pipeline. So here you can see in this diagram. So here we have source, we have the build, we have the pre-test, we have the deploy, and then we have the post test. So these are our steps from GitHub to any cloud, or it could be GCP, AWS, or Azure. So in CI/CD pipeline, we have three things. First is continuous integration, and then we have the continuous delivery, and then we have the continuous deployment. So now let's see what is the continuous integration part here in this diagram. So imagine you are writing a code, and then you build the Docker image, and then you just test that Docker image. So that is the continuous integration from uh, pushing your code to GitHub and then building the Docker image and then testing. So in the test, you can assume like you must have build the unit tests. So these are those tests I'm talking about. And then, so this is very simple continuous integration from source to pretest. Hope you all understand. And then we have continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times, software engineer or developers confused between those two terms, like what is continuous delivery and the continuous deployment. So in simple terms, continuous deployment journey is from source to post test, like no interruption between source to post test. Like you are pushing your code into GitHub, and then you're building your Docker image, and then you are testing your Docker image, and then you deploying into the cloud, and then you are performing some post test. So that is continuous deployment. You just need to trigger a pipeline. But in case of continuous delivery, we have a interruption here. So this interruption called the manual approval. So in case of continuous delivery, when we perform these all five steps, we have a one step here. There we have to give the manual approval. Okay, like for example, uh, you just deploy your code, build image and pretest, and then by manually you check, okay, your code is good to go for the deployment purpose. So that is the continuous delivery. And yeah, so you can hope you can now differentiate between what is continuous delivery and what is the continuous deployment. So yeah, that is about all three CI/CD. And let's go. What's next? Now, before jumping into any technology, like I when my boss gave me the task, okay, you need to build the CI/CD pipeline for our ELT pipeline. So I had just one question, that what the tool I can use to perform this task. What's the best tool I can use, and why we use the specific tool. So uh, they were using Jenkins, but I was inside of the GitHub Actions, but my company is saying like, okay, we must need to use the Jenkins. That time I was, frustrated, like why we are using Jenkins, why not GitHub Actions? But the reason is very simple. GitHub Actions remains the most common choice for personal use. If you are uh, doing your personal project, then you must go for the GitHub Action. But if you are uh, implementing your CI/CD pipeline in your company or in a very serious work, then you can go for the Jenkins. So these are three top things you can, just check these numbers. Uh, Companies using 47%, but for the personal uses, uh, for the personal project they use GitHub Actions like 42%. So you can compare. So these are all the tools, then you can go ahead with it, whatever you like, or whatever your use case, you can opt for that. So yeah, in my case we go for the Jenkins, not the GitHub Action. But yes, in the process of building the CI/CD pipeline, I tried the same pipeline by GitHub Action. But yeah, eventually we had to go for all the Jenkins. Okay, so now the flow of CI/CD pipeline. Let's see very quickly what's the flow of the CI/CD pipeline. You don't need to, think too much. It is very difficult or what. It's a very simple flow. So here you can see. So just imagine you are a developer, right? Your code is on Visual Studio Code, or maybe your code can be in the PyCharm, right? So the next step here would be to commit this code to the GitHub, right? And then after that, we have the step of GitHub Actions or the Jenkins. In place of GitHub Actions, you can use the Jenkins Actions. So in this step, we have a script. In this script, we have all the steps mentioned. Okay, you need to do first this and this and this, and deploy your code into the AWS. So everything is mentioned here in this script. Now what happened when you trigger your action? It will build a container image, right? And then push your container image to the Azure Container Registry. Or if you are using the AWS, then you can push it to the ECR. So this is, you can imagine these registry are just like a GitHub repo. And then after pushing your image to the GitHub registry, then you can push it to the AKS or ECS. So that is a simple flow of the CI/CD pipeline. One second. Okay, let me know, Manish, if somebody has some questions or not. If not, then we can, just go ahead.
Yeah, sure. We didn't have any comments till yet or any questions. I will let you go.
Okay, no issues. Okay, let's go. Hope everyone understand what I'm saying. Okay, now let's see what is Jenkins. Who's this guy? Who's this big guy, Jenkins? So in this slide we will see what Jenkins has to offer you, right? So you don't need to think about a lot. It's just a tool. It's just a server that will give you the power to create the continuous integration script, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. And it has 1000 plus plugins. It means 1000 plus plugins means you can integrate your Jenkins with GitHub, Docker, Cloud, or Airflow. Lot of the plugins I'll show you. And okay, let me show you how this is working. And okay, so this is how, one second. Okay, so this is how our Jenkins dashboard look like. So currently what I did, I just install the Jenkins, and I just need to just run this command, brew service restart Jenkins LTS. When you run this command, it will give you a URL, and by clicking the URL it will open this dashboard. So in this dashboard what we had, so we have this jobs. So if we create, okay, let's not talk about this. So this is how our Jenkins look like. So here you can see this is our first job. So and here we have the trigger. By just triggering, you can run your CI/CD pipeline, and it will perform your all the steps that is mentioned here. Okay, let me present again. Let me, okay. Okay, so yeah, I just show you like how the Jenkins the dashboard look like, what is plugins and how the trigger is working. And one more thing that Jenkins provides you, you can install or run Jenkins on Linux, Windows, or Mac, and also you can also deploy your Jenkins environment into the EC2 also. So there's a lot of thing you can do with this guy Jenkins. And then, okay, what time? Okay, now let's see CI/CD pipeline built by Mona. So I'll show you the CI/CD pipeline that I built. Not exactly what I built, but it's kind of, it's for the demo purpose, right? Okay, so here you can see we have one use case here. So just read with me. Jenkins file to build and publish Docker images to artifact registry using Jenkins pipeline for a GitHub repository. So here what we need to do, you can see we need to push our Docker image to artifact registry that we mention here in this tab. What we are doing here, we are building the image and then we are pushing it to the registry. So that we are going to do in this script. Okay, so that is the script. So what two things here we need to notice in this script. First thing is the pipeline section, and the second thing is the stage section. These are the two main things in the Jenkins script, and you also don't need to think a lot like it's very complicated thing. It's not. So just focus on two things. First is pipeline and the second is the stage. So in the pipeline section we have, so you need to mention what is your project ID, what is your image name, what is your registry URL, and if you have any tag for your registry then you can mention that also. Like, you need to mention information about your project here in the pipeline section, in the environment section, right? And then we have the stages, the second section. So in stages, what we have first step is checkout stage, git checkout, and the second stage is build and push images, right? So here you can see, so what we are doing in the first step, we are checking out in the GitHub, and then in the second step what we are doing, we are building Docker image. So if you have previously worked with the Docker, you must have used this Docker command, like Docker build the registry. So here you can see we just mentioned this command. Here we are building the Docker image. And one second, I think we are on a wrong slide. I'm so sorry. Okay, so in the first tab, what we are doing, we are checking out on GitHub. Here we have the URL of GitHub, and then here we have mentioned what's the branch, right? And then in second tab, what we are doing, we have mentioned what's our next step is to build and push the image. And what we have mentioned here are GitHub credentials, GitHub token, and then here you can see we have the three main actions here. The first thing here we mentioned, set the GCR credentials, and the second step, or I can say the second action, is build and tag the Docker image. Here we are building the Docker image, and then here we are pushing our Docker image to the artifact registry. So this is the simple script to push your Docker image to the artifact registry. So if you are aware with the Docker previously, then it will be easy for you to understand this whole script. And now what you need to do, you just after finishing your script, you just need to trigger the build, and it just work off for the seconds and all, and you are done with this task. right? Now I have the second use case, and the second use case is Jenkins file to build and publish Docker images to AWS ECR and deploy it to the ECS using Jenkins pipeline for a GitHub registry. Now, here we are in the next step. So what we are doing, we are done with the building Docker images and then push into ECR. Now we are also adding one step, deploying it into the ECS, right? So, okay, now here you can see in environment we have mentioned all of the things that we need to do, like aws access key, aws secret access key, and what's a region, what is the ecr registry name, and what is the ecr repository, right? So in environment we have done with all the information, and in stages you can check. Now we have the four stages. First stage is check out GitHub, and then build Docker image, and then we are logging into the ECR. And then what we are doing, we are pushing into the ECR. So I think it's a mistake. It should be the ECS here. So yeah, that is uh, the script of Jenkins file that is doing pushing your Docker images to the ECR and then deploy into the ECS. After done with this, you just need to trigger your build. Okay, the most important thing to discuss in this session is the problems. So this is very easy to talk about, like how to build the Jenkins file, what's the syntax of the Jenkins file. That is very easy to understand, but what is the difficulties here? It lies in lot of things. So I'll discuss the problem that I faced when I was building the CI/CD pipeline, and trust me, it was very frustrating when I was building my CI/CD pipeline. So let's discuss it. Okay, so the first problem and very common thing you will experience while building the pipeline is, when you build the pipeline now, you need to connect your pipeline with the external services. Like, you need to integrate the database, for example the rds, or the third party apis like the airflow also, or the cloud services like aws, gcp, or azure. So like, the integration part is very difficult, not the building the script. Building script is not that difficult, but integration part is very complicated thing. So you just need to focus on, and very focused on how you can integrate your apis and cloud services with the Jenkins. And the second thing I faced during this whole process is versioning and dependencies management. So sometimes what happened, okay, like I gave you one example, like for a moment my pipeline is running good, perfectly good, and when I'm triggering the second build, it's not, like, it's failed. So why this happened because of versioning issues. So for example, in my case, what happened, my GitHub version was not matching with the Docker version. Like, the compatibility of those versions was not correct. So you also need to update it with this version game, what is dependent on what, right? So you need to focus on that must. And then, okay, we have the another thing is environment consistency that you need to focused on, or you need to just work on it. Like, ensuring consistency between development, testing, and production environment can be challenging. The differences in environment may lead to the unexpected issues. So what happens, sometimes something was not working on testing environment, but it was working on the production. But and sometimes the developer think, okay, it is working on production now, then it's good, right? But we need to be very consistent with the environment. Your code or your pipeline must work in the development part, testing environment, and also in the production environment. So be consistent with the environment. That is, very important thing. Okay, now we have some best practices we can discuss here. So continuous deployment best practices. So while building a pipeline, there's a lot of things we need to watch out. So first is version source. So choose wisely what version source you are going to implement into your CI/CD pipeline. And also the second thing, try to automate your builds, right? So it should be, your build, your CI/CD pipeline build should be automated. It's not manually, it should not be manually interruption between your builds. So just aware about it. And the third thing is automated deployment. So okay, it is good that you are doing continuous delivery, but try to jump into the automated deployment, or I can say the continuous deployment, because it's very feasible. So yeah, just opt for the continuous deployment. And then the fourth very important thing is, sometimes for the cost cutting, we just deploy our code into one instance or one EC2, right? So try to deploy your code into multiple EC2 or the instances, so your code or your website will be live, right? Or your ELD pipeline will be live for. So make sure deploy to greater than one instance. And then we have the unit test. So always remember to add the unit tests between your CI/CD pipeline. That is very important thing. So initially we thought unit test is not that much important if something is working, but you can't always predict if your CI/CD pipeline will work in the future. So always add unit test after every stages, right? And then the integration test basically, when you are integrating any technology like the Docker or the GitHub, so you should add integration test or testing. Okay, your integration is successful or not successful, right? So yeah, these are some of the best practices you can add while building your CI/CD pipeline. So yeah, I think with this we are done with the CI/CD best practices and what is CI/CD pipeline. And now, if you have any questions, you can just type it out, or maybe we have some questions. Okay, Manish, let me know if someone has any questions, or we can move ahead.
Awesome, sure. We are monitoring the chats and we'll let you know.
Yeah.
So, is this the final end, or you have some more topics to cover as
No, it's the final one. Yeah.
well? Okay. Yeah, we can wait for a few more minutes and see if
Yeah.
users have any questions. Else, we are good to wrap.
Okay. And it's my social media handles. You, if you don't have questions now, but later you can just connect with me here. So yeah, I'm waiting for your questions.
Also, if you would like, you can take a screenshot of it and pick of it and post it on social as well. And then just tag TIL conference and us, and maybe you
Okay.
can get a chance to win a raffle as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can take. One second. I don't know how to share.
Uh,
One second. Just let me know how I can take the screenshot.
I was conveying to the people who are watching it, so
Okay.
you don't have to do it.
Okay. I'll take it later. Well.
Sure. Seems like the talk was very perfect and users don't have any questions. That's
That's
amazing.
that's that's great. Do you have any questions? Then you can ask.
No, I think the talk was amazing and interesting. So I got all the concept clear. But yeah,
Yeah,
maybe we can wrap it up from here.
yeah,
And
sure.
yeah, thanks a lot for for your awesome talk and for coming to the TL conference.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I really enjoyed talking about the CICD. And it was my first time, I think, I'm doing in StreamYard. Yeah. So it's super great experience here. So, and thank you so much for listening, everyone. Yeah. That's
So,
it.
see ya. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, so we'll have a 1 hour break, and after that, we'll have our next speaker. So till then, you can just share about TL conference on your socials, on your social media handles, like be it on Twitter, be it on LinkedIn, be it on any other platform, and you can get a chance to win raffle as well and win some exciting tickets for some exciting conferences and maybe some exciting product as well. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Meanwhile, I will take a leave there. So, welcome everyone to the space, and we are back with one of another talk. So we have Dale with us, and Dale will be gonna talking on how to bounce back after a layoff, on tips and strategies that can shape your future and shape your career. So without wasting much of our time, let's get invited. Let's get Dale invited, and let the talk begins. Hey Dale, welcome to the stage. How are you doing?
Hey Manish, I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing all absolutely fantastic.
Cool.
So, are you able to manage the space and add your slides as well?
Oh, you mean that the recent feature or
Yeah, the presentation.
okay? So now I'm gonna present my slide. Is it correct?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen then. Okay.
Yeah, sure. You
Yeah.
can do it. Okay.
Are you able
So,
to see it?
yeah, just let me edit to it.
Okay.
Okay. So, people should be able to see it now. So, yeah, welcome to the TIL Conf Dale. The stage is all yours. Introduce about yourself, and yeah, let the talk begins.
Cool, thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Đeo Nguyễn. I'm a senior front-end engineer at Noibu. It's a company that have monitoring error for e-commerce business and prevent revenue loss. I'm also the author of Next Level UI development with G, and also a Angular content creator. But today I'm not gonna talk about Angular. Maybe next time. Today I'm gonna talk about the how to bounce back after a layoff with tips and strategies. So just to give you the backstory that in November 2023, I found myself facing an expected and disheartening experience, a layoff, and that moment happened when I was in the airport. Um, when I back to Canada from a trip from Vietnam, and it just happened to me, and I understand that navigating the aftermath proved to be a challenging journey, um, particularly with the a lot of layoff that happened the last time, where lots of people got laid off. You can see that on LinkedIn, lots of like people with the how open to work tag on LinkedIn. So today, I hope to share my personal experience and offering insights on how to effectively navigate the aftermath of a layoff, and hopefully that it will help people who are in the same situation, or maybe in the same situation in the future. So before diving into action, so it is essential to acknowledge and process the range of emotions that come with a layoff. You can, the feeling may be you might feel shock or disappointment or fear. It's pretty common, and it is important to give yourself time and space to navigate through them. You can talk to your friends or families, or even search for professional counselor to help to manage your emotional well-being during this challenging time. You can find that it's a surprise to see a lot of people that you can pay to talk to. Will lead to the next point. Evaluate your finances. When you have some time to process your emotion, you can take a closer look at your financial situation. You can access your savings, create a budget, and determine how long you can sustain yourself without a steady income. So this evaluation will give you a clear understanding of your financial runway and give you the next steps. So one tip is that after you got laid off, you can check the law of the country to see how many weeks that you can get for the severance package, and then you can negotiate if it's possible with the company. Because if you don't add, you don't get. And another tip is everyone should have a basic understanding of a financial literacy. So it will drill down to live below your means, which is just spend less than what you make. I'm not an expert in this one, but that the basic thing that I can share. And after you resolve your emotion and the financials, the next step is to revamp your resumes and LinkedIn profile to reflect your most recent accomplishments and experiences. You can highlight your skills, achievements, and add any new certification or training you might have acquired, because a polished and up-to-date professional profile is crucial when you seek for new activity. And one tip is don't hesitate to put the open to work on your LinkedIn. It's a clear signal that you are actively seeking for new opportunity. And remember that you are not alone in this journey. And it may make you feel vulnerable, but the truth is the one that care will not judge you. And the key is to get back on track as soon as possible, as you are ready. And you also have to let everyone know, or everyone that have an opportunity can refer you to the company. That what happened to me. I got a lot of referrals because I let everyone know that I was looking for a new opportunity. Even though some of them didn't work out, but it's a great chance to connect with people. And as a software engineer, so this one is the controversial part. So a lot of people may do a lot of algorithm in data structure. One thing that you can look into is lead code, but the thing here is that you shouldn't do like all of the question. From my experience, you can pick the 75 or 100 popular question, and then work on the popular common algorithm and data structure. And then you can work on that, but do not do lots of things or spend much of time on this one. And in my personal experience, all of the company that I applied and got interview, all of them, they have either take-home assignments or live coding to a real project, rather than this algorithm and data structure. So spend your time accordingly. And the more senior you get, the more important the behavior interview that you need to prepare. Because being a senior, you're not just focused on the technical expertise. There are other skills such as leadership, collaboration, and communication. So those are soft skills that show the ability to work in different situations for a company. So the more senior that you get, the more time that you should spend on this one. And there is a site, I think technical interview handbook. You can check it out to see the examples how the answer should be structured, so you can apply your real experience to the answer that you prepared. The next one is you can consider acquiring new skills or updating existing ones to make yourself more marketable in the current job landscape. So you can take online courses, workshops, and certification to enhance your skill set and demonstrate the commitment to learn to improve your personal development. And here are the some website that you can look into, such as LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Skillshare, and Udemy. So, for example, I was to get into full stack. I can learn more about like Node.js or Python or Rust. It depends on your interest. The next one is that even though you are active applying for position in your field, um, you can like open to exploring opportunity that in related industries or role that align with your skills. I was in the travel industry, but I open to work with like financials or e-commerce industries, or if I'm familiar with Angular, I'm still open to work with either React or Vue, because being senior, you solving problem, not just focus on the single technology. And one tip is during the job search is that you can have a tracking system for your job application. So personally, I use Google spreadsheet to monitor the status and jot down the note throughout the application process. So you will not make a mistake of such as applying to the same company more than once, and you have the ability to make note and apply status to different application. So you have a clear understanding of how long does it take during the application process. So this one is really important. If you able to get the referral, the process will be much easier. You don't have to compete with like 100 or even 1,000 of the other applicants. You can see on any LinkedIn, you can check like any job. After they posted like a day or just a few hours, they're going to be more than 100 applicants, and the recruiter or the hiring company, they have to look to lots of resumes, and if you don't have a good resume that stand out, even though you are qualified for the work, it's pretty hard if you don't have a referral. So one tip is that you can connect to the people in the community or friend on LinkedIn. So it's likely that if you find a common crowd, and it's easier to get referral from them. So the next one is you can consider entrepreneurship. If you have a passion or a skill that could be turned into a business venture, you can consider entrepreneurship or starting a small business or solo entrepreneur or indie hacker or even freelancing. It can be fulfilling for a lot of people and empower you to take control of your career. There are platforms such as Upwork, Fiverr, and Etsy. They provide opportunities for freelancers to showcase their talent. And Twitter, it's also a good community to test out your idea too. But this one also depends on your current situation. If you are single, married, do you have kids, or are you willing to spend like the weekend working on your side project? So you need to estimate or consider your current situation before getting to this one. And the final thing is stay positive and persistent because rejection is really common when you apply for the job process. You can get like 100 or even 1,000 of the rejection, but they're going to be the one that matter. So you can stay positive and then maintain a healthy mindset, be persistent, and you can set the realistic goal for your job search. Even celebrate small victories and learn from setbacks. So the key is the more interview that you experience, the more adept you become, and it will eventually you will able to achieve your goal. So this is all of the experience that I able to share and hope that you find it useful. Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. It was a very interesting talk, and we are seeing rise in numbers as well of our streamers. So yeah, thank you, Dale, for your session. It was really an interesting one. And if any one of you have any further questions or any doubts and queries regarding the session or regarding anything, then you can definitely contact Dale. Also, Dale, if you would like, you can drop your socials as well in the comment section so that people can follow you and they can ask you queries afterwards as well.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys have any question, you have my social media. Just send me a message, and in the comment section, I don't see anything yet. So okay, so then gonna see you guys. Cool. Okay,
Hey, great. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dale, for the session. Thanks a lot for coming to TIL conference.
cool. Thank you.
See you.
Yeah, see you.
Okay, great. So I guess it's a lot to like attending all of these live streams continuously without taking a break. So we are not that cruel peoples, and we will be giving you, I think, half half hour or an hour break, so that you can maybe take a meal, have a dinner with your family, and then you can come back. We have some more interesting sessions, and believe me, the sessions that are upcoming, you're gonna like them. So yeah, stay tuned.